Okay, I think all the members of the Board of Health are here. I'd like to open up the meeting. This is a Board of Health meeting held under the Zoom meeting protocol through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts regulations, Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Ask for a roll call vote for those who are present. Marcia,
Present.
Elizabeth,
Present.
Paul Schubert present.
Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Schubert.
No, I got something floating in the middle of the screen here.
There you go.
So today's public health meeting is going to involve a couple of items here. First one is going to be 44 Lantern Lane, a variance request for town sewer connection exemption. The location is 44 Lantern Lane, and the homeowner is requesting a variance to the Cohasset Supplemental Title V regulation. These are the sewer regulations. To continue to using a septic system rather than connecting to the public sewer system. The Cohasset regulation of the Board of Health, if connection to the municipal sanitary sewer is feasible, the owner shall abandon use of the system and connect to the municipal sanitary sewer if connection to the municipal becomes feasible, unless the Board of Health grants relief from this provision through an issue of a variance. So I'd ask the homeowner at 44 Lantern Lane to present their request.
Sure. Hi, my name is Sean Cunning, and I am the homeowner. I grew up in this house at 44 Lantern Lane. We have a septic system in the back. We built the house ourselves. My parents did in 1979. And at the time, we were required to build a pretty substantial septic system at the time. Since then, the sewer has come by, the betterment's been paid on it. It is a difficult house to connect to sewer. We got a passing Title V from Rosanna Davis. We pumped it down and we did a hydraulic coating of the whole interior of it. And we did camera work, and they said they were pretty impressed with everything. The D pipe or the D box, the water was well below that. He said, that's excellent. And yeah, and I think it's kind of a cost prohibitive situation for us. The house just changed hands on June 2nd. So we don't own it currently, but we've put money in escrow depending on the outcome of this meeting. But we are requesting because, one, all the pipes proceed out the back of the house, and to configure it to the front of the house with a grinder pump, it requires us to reconfigure the stairs to the basement, because you'll basically be hitting your head when you walk down the bottom of the stairs. There's a ton of ledge. It's about 200 feet to the street. And what else I gotta mention about it? Yeah, and again, everything seems to be running. We've had four years of heavy usage of families in there, so it hasn't just been my mother in there, and the system seems to be performing excellent. So at this time, I guess I'm requesting to, I'm guessing the cost to hook up. I got some quick estimates on it. It was $6,800 for a grinder pump. It was about $20,000 to run a line. Would probably have to do a little bit of blasting, even though it's shallow. There's some ledge there that would have to get through. And yeah, I mean, it's a $30,000 basic commitment to tie in when we have an existing system that's working more than adequate.
Anyone on the board have any questions? So the one question I have is, at this point, it's past Title V. Is there any, looking forward, when would the potential just revisiting this occur? Would you be testing the potential function of it?
Well, I think it would have to you typically pump it down every couple of years. And if it ever failed, the stub is there and it's been prepaid, the betterment. But how often do you do a Title V? Typically, you probably wouldn't. It's probably more of a maintenance issue and a maintenance plan going forward.
Right. I mean, I guess that's my point. I just want to be sure that there's due diligence to make sure that it continues to function at an adequate level, that you don't kind of dismiss if it's leaking or anything like that. That's
Yeah.
really the biggest concern, is that if you hook to sewer, it's expensive, but the deed is done. I just want to make sure that you're aware that if it does fail to,
Yeah, they would have to hook up,
Nothing more.
exactly. Well, again, the property has changed hands on June 2nd already, so there's a young family in there as right now, so you don't have to transfer this message over to them as far as regular maintenance goes.
okay, any other questions?
So you're not presently the homeowner of this
No, it's
residence?
like, my mother passed, she was living in we grew up in that house, and the house has just changed hands to a new young family.
So just logistically, I'm not sure how would this variance affect, since it's not your home anymore, the new homeowners or any
Well, we put the
complications
cost of
from
hook,
that?
I actually put the cost of the hookup in escrow pending the outcome of this meeting. So I'm on the hook either whether I'm hooking it up or not hooking it up. The cost would have to be my burden at the end of the day. It seems kind of silly to hook up a system that's working perfectly well. Yeah.
I understand that at this point. So again, mirroring Dr. Schubert, as long as there's an extensive maintenance plan or a maintenance plan that is implemented and followed.
So the current homeowners are in agreement with this? Or
Yeah.
potential homeowner? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Are they present here tonight?
I actually know they're not. No.
Sorry, can you hear me? David Kelly, represent the current homeowners.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So as long as there's an understanding that if this were to be a variance allowable under the Board of Health, that there's a future understanding that a reasonable inspection of the yard and making sure that it doesn't leak or there's problems, that due maintenance is done.
That's understood. And just to add to something that Mr. Cunning had stated, there is a drainage easement that runs across the front of the property that would additionally cause issues with tying in potentially.
So there'd be more potential, like a wetlands or a
Yeah. mhm,
cross
Yeah.
intermittently flowing streams.
Yep.
Okay.
So just wanted to add in that small piece there, if it makes any difference in consideration by the board.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, and ask for a motion. Most of the motions are going to be positive, so I'll make a motion or ask for a motion to approve a variance under Cohasset Supplemental Title V regulations to allow the continued use of a septic system at 44 Lantern Lane rather than connecting to the municipal sewer until the septic system no longer passes a Title V inspection. Is there a motion?
Second,
Marcia,
second the motion. Yeah.
is there a first and a second? So Marcia, you had a first? Okay, is there a second?
Elizabeth Kirkpatrick, second.
Okay. As for a roll call vote, as this is a virtual meeting, Marcia,
I vote in favor. Aye.
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth Kirkpatrick, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye. Motion passes. So thank you. As long as there's reasonable understanding down the road that understanding that if it fails, that you let us know.
I'll
Okay.
pass that along to my clients. Thank you.
All right, and welcome the family to town.
Oh, thanks very much. They're excited.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So the next portion, we're at 6:02 plus. The next portion on the agenda is a public hearing at 110 Jerusalem Road, an irrigation well. So the hearing is a little different than a regular meeting. A hearing has to be opened up with a little more involved nature. So I'd ask Elizabeth to read the public hearing notice.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, this was the public hearing notice published in the Patriot Ledger on June 2nd, 2023. The Cohasset Board of Public Health will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 13th at 6 p.m. virtually via Zoom webinar to review and vote on an application for irrigation well permit at 110 Jerusalem Road. An abutter has expressed opposition to the irrigation well and is opposed to any future drilling and or ledge work activity. The public is welcome to attend the Zoom hearing using login information available on the agenda that will be posted on the Town of Cohasset website, or submit their input in writing via email to Ms. Pam Bakey at cohassetmass.org prior to the hearing.
Excellent. So I'm going to open up the public hearing on 110 Jerusalem Road irrigation well. A couple of just informational items here. This is a hearing. It's an irrigation well permit. It is not a potable water. It is irrigation, but it goes under the definitions of a private well, but not for drinking water. The person who asked for the hearing is the affected party. The person who is with the project is the applicant for the permit. This has been duly posted and the parties have been notified. And the one question I have is, do the parties wish to continue with this hearing?
So I guess, Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Jeff DeLisi. I represent the Joyces, who are the affected party in this circumstance. We still would like to have this hearing if the applicant is still seeking an irrigation well.
Dr. Schubert, members of the board, good evening. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use lawyer, and I represent Kristen and Micah Moreau as trustees of the Moreau Family Revocable Trust, the applicants here, and they would like to move forward, please, with the application for the irrigation well.
Okay, great. So a couple of things. We will swear in the parties. So those who are going to be speaking, ask you to raise your hand, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So we can go ahead.
Okay, well, why don't we start with Mr. Joyce, who's on the line. He is my client.
Okay,
Hi, Brian Joyce, 84 Jerusalem Road. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
okay, great. And on the other partner?
Dr. Schubert, we were not planning on calling any witnesses since this
Okay.
is a public hearing. I do have available Micah Moreau, and if
Okay.
he's available, his camera is off because he's attending to his younger children.
Okay,
We were also going to have attending David Cohen, who's a managing partner of Clearwater Pump and Well Service LLC, the well company. Unfortunately, he's had a medical emergency and is not able to attend. In his place, we're trying to get hold of Matthew Roth from Hawthorne Builders, who's the general contractor.
okay. All right, so I was planning on trying to have about a 10-minute discussion with the affected party, followed by the applicant, probably a rebuttal from both sides, and then go to the board. So I would ask that the affected party, the abutter, basically give their views on the project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to preface, Mr. Joyce, I'd like, if it pleases the board, I'd like to just make a little bit of an opening remark and then turn it over to Mr. Joyce.
Sure.
Okay, great. So the Joyces do not want to be in the position of having to oppose this application. They appeared before the board last year and expressed concerns about the applicant's then plans to drill wells at the same property. And this is due to the fact that both properties are built upon the same ledge and bedrock, which Mr. Joyce will tell you. At the time, they were given assurances that did not pan out. And based on those assurances, they graciously did not oppose the well drilling at the applicant's property. And they're here tonight now because they have experience. And that experience is that the well drilling at the applicant's property, which was just a few months ago, actually resulted in harm on their property. And that is the basis for which they just request simply no additional drilling. A few weeks ago, I did send a letter to the board, which I'm sure the board has read, and outlined the safety risks that were posed to the Joyce's property as a result of well drilling on the applicant's property. Those safety risks included a greenhouse that collapsed, and a pool and a koi pond that cracked and leaked and continue to leak as a result of the well drilling and the ledge activities on the applicant's property. They do not speculate their harm, they witnessed it. They witnessed vibrations throughout their home in January during the initial drilling, and again more recently in April. And while the applicant will cite, I'm sure, that the Joyces have a legal remedy, and thus that the irrigation well, which they request now, should be separate from the prior well and ledge activities, the fact remains that the properties still share the same ledge and bedrock. And this to this day, the Joyces, as Brian will tell you, continue to experience repercussions from the prior well drilling activities. So I do note that the stated purpose of Cohasset's well regulations is to provide for the protection of the public's health, safety, and welfare. That's a stated purpose right up front. The Joyces, and Brian will tell you, have been adversely impacted already by well drilling at this property. And therefore, we believe that the burden should be squarely on the applicant to demonstrate that the previous damage would not be exasperated, and that that there would be no new damage that would ensue. I do note, and I would like the board to take into consideration, that the building inspector has already ordered the applicant, and they're already under an order to stop all drilling and ledge activities, to have an engineer assess both properties, to repair the damage to the Joyce property, and to formulate a proper plan to restart the well drilling. Instead, despite those orders, there has not been an engineer that has assessed both properties there, to our knowledge. Certainly the repairs have not been performed, and there is no plan other than just simply an application that the applicant seeks an additional well, this time an irrigation well at the property. And I think that the Joyces believe that they should not receive an approval until they first address the building commissioner's questions to his satisfaction. And we think that it's appropriate for the board to seek the building inspector's input and recommendations on this issue, which we see as a safety issue. And finally, I just would like to point out to the board that that there is an alternative here, an alternative remedy for the applicant to still have their irrigation well, and that is to install an irrigation system without using a well, is just to use the town water, like many other residents in the town of Cohasset already do on their irrigation systems. The Joyces, however, they don't have an alternative, except to inform the board of their experiences through this process, and to ask that this permit not be issued, because if it is, and if they suffer more harm, then they have to deal with that. And we perceive it as a safety issue. Thank you. Mr. Joyce, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure, thank you. So I think it'd be helpful just to have a description of the area. Despite our address is 84 Jerusalem, and The applicant is 110. We are direct abutters, next door neighbors. And the development up here is an elevated drumlin on, it's a ledge drumlin. And both of the houses are on the same ledge bedrock, which is at the surface. We have a koi pond that is in a depression of that bedrock that's right next to the property line between us. And then we have a pool that's also within the bedrock in the basement of the house. And each of these vessels were holding water. They were functioning fine prior to this. I was concerned, and I put it in writing to the Board of Health prior to the last well permit issue, my concerns. Once the drilling started in January, we noticed a significant amount of vibration. And I went over and I talked to the contractor and I said, listen, I want you to come into my house and feel the vibrations and take a look at what I'm concerned about. And we did walk through, I showed him the koi pond and the pool that were undamaged at the time. And we were told 3 days would be the process, 3 to 5 at the most. And then after 3 weeks of, this vibratory drilling, ledge removal, full days of the vibration, we started losing water in each of them. First, the koi pond, which seems to have a little more significant leak, it's closer, and the pool as well. So now we're filling that with purchased Cohasset water, just to keep the fish alive and also to keep the pool needs to stay wet for the surface area. So we have cracks in each of these vessels, and it happened during this whole vibration, 3-week vibration with the geothermal wells that were installed. So with that, we're obviously very concerned about any more drilling. And an irrigation well it's not required for an occupancy permit. It's not required for public health. It's basically a convenience to get free water to water. Whereas we're using our purchased water to fill the pond, it's going into the aquifer. An irrigation well sucks from the aquifer. And, another detrimental effect of an irrigation well is that it reduces the groundwater table. So we're on a perched drumlin, as I mentioned. If the groundwater table goes lower, then the leakage that we already have in our pool and our koi pond only gets worse with the head differential. So for those reasons, we're opposing the irrigation well. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the applicant, if they can also state their reason for going ahead with it.
Thank you, Dr. Schubert. Again, this is Adam Brodsky. And I will note that Matthew Roth from Hawthorne Builders has joined the Zoom and is available to answer any questions or to testify if necessary. Again, I just remind the board that what's in front of it is an application for installation of an irrigation well. That well is proposed to be installed by Clearwater and using Gap Mountain Drilling LLC as its contractor. As Attorney DeLisi and Mr. Joyce have indicated, my clients previously obtained a permit to install geothermal wells. That work was completed in January of 2023. We recognize that the Joyces allege that the installation of the geothermal wells have caused property damage. And since I've been retained, I have been facilitating the insurance claims process, because each of the general contractor and the drilling company that installed the geothermal wells, which is a different company than Clearwater, which is proposing to install the irrigation well, have insurance for these type of claims. Those claims have been submitted to the insurers, and I provided all of the claim information that's available to Attorney DeLisi. My clients feel terrible that the Joyces have a problem, but we're doing everything that we can to address that problem within the confines of our contractual obligations with our general contractor, as well as the drilling contractor. We take no position regarding the technical merits of the Joyce's allegations, and we'll leave it to the insurance professionals and the geotechnical experts to address that issue. But as Attorney DeLisi suggested, that's a private property dispute. And there is no issue of public health involved in this matter. I'd suggest that because there's no public health issue, there's no basis for the Board of Health to pursue enforcement under General Laws, Chapter 111, Section 122, which was cited in Attorney DeLisi's letter to the Board of Health, which grants the Board of Health jurisdiction over matters injurious to public health. The only issue that's really presently before the board and respectfully within its jurisdiction is whether this irrigation well meets the Cohasset private well regulations. And I don't think you've heard any testimony to the contrary. The answer is undisputedly yes. And again, Mr. Roth is available and can confirm this to you directly. But the proposed location of the well meets the private well siting requirements in your regulations, as well as the construction requirements, which are the only technical requirements for an irrigation well. And as Dr. Schubert alluded to, an irrigation well is a private well under your drinking water well regulations, and not a private drinking water well. Most of the regulations address private drinking water wells, which have detailed water quality standards and testing requirements and the like. An irrigation well is simply required to comply with the siting requirements as well as the construction requirements, and there's no dispute that this well meets those requirements. Again, because we're trying to be sensitive to the Joyce's concerns, we did go one step further and requested a letter from Clearwater, which we provided to you through Ms. Fahey, the agent, explaining the rotary drilling process that will be used for the irrigation well. And Clearwater indicates that they've drilled thousands of wells using this technology, and they've not had any instance of any damage to adjacent properties. We provided that information really for informational purposes, because that's not one of the legal standards for you to consider with respect to whether this application is appropriate or not. This is not an issue of public health, but we're doing our very best to provide assurances to the Joyces that the installation of the irrigation well should not cause them any harm. Again, both the general contractor and Clearwater, as well as the drill itself, GAP, are fully insured to address any property damage claims that may arise. But we did provide that information to you. And as I said, unfortunately, the representative from Clearwater is not going to be here, but Mr. Roth is. Lastly, I was a bit surprised by Attorney DeLisi's reference to an enforcement order from the building inspector. We're not aware of any enforcement order. We do know that John Hallen, the building inspector and zoning enforcement officer, has been involved and has apparently provided suggestions to the parties as to how to address the damage allegedly caused by the installation of the geothermal wells. But I don't have a copy of an enforcement order from Mr. Hallen. I do see that Town Council Alex Whiteside is attending, and if there is a copy of an enforcement order, I would appreciate if someone would please forward it to us. Regardless, that is a different regulatory program. The building inspector presumably has authority under the Cohasset ledge removal bylaw to address any issues that may arise. That's not an issue for the Board of Health. So with that said, if you have any questions for Mr. Roth, or whether Mr. Roth wishes to speak, I'd invite him to participate. As I indicated, Mr. Moreau is available if you have any questions, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? No? So I just wanted to just quickly go through the regulations for the private wells, which appears to be what we will be looking at as an irrigation well. It's a private well, it's an irrigation well. Section or chapter 7 well siting. The siting appears to be within the regulations. The water supply line shall be installed certain distance away. That appears to be the case. The one aspect I guess I have a question with is the well construction in section 10, where there's one item which says the driller shall operate all equipment according to generally accepted standards in the industry and take appropriate precaution to prevent damage, injury, or other loss to persons and property at the drilling site. But this doesn't necessarily involve the site of the abutters. So I just wanted to mention those items that we have. Any other questions or concerns from the board? Okay. So at this point, I would like to propose a motion if I'd ask for a motion to approve an irrigation well permit for 110 Jerusalem Road. Is there a motion?
There's the motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
And so the motion was by Marcia Lewis. The second was Elizabeth Kirkpatrick. I'd ask for a roll call vote. Marcia,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
aye.
Paul Schubert, aye. The motion passes. I think the concerns have been raised. I think a lot of this is outside our jurisdiction and authority. The damage is, at this point, I suspect, a private matter between the abutter and the applicant. I would ask for a motion to, unless there are further questions or concerns. Are there any? I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
And Marcia Lewis has a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second,
Elizabeth Kirkpatrick seconds the motion. Would ask for a roll call vote. Marcia,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
aye.
Paul Schubert, aye. And the public hearing is closed.
Thank you and good evening, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So next up is the approval of the minutes from May 23, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second,
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Marcy? Elizabeth?
aye.
Paul Schubert, aye. Motion passes. The next up is the next meeting date. What works best for everyone? Tuesday?
Tuesday's good.
Okay.
I mean, we were planning on next week, but should we defer to the following month, given that we just met tonight?
I think so, unless there, is there other stuff, Pam, that you need to address?
Yeah, we could wait another month.
Okay. So we can go to, let me just, got an eye appointment that day, so it's not that day. So July, I'm not available July 11 or 18th. I think the 4th is a holiday. Can we do the 25th of July?
I'm actually on vacation that week.
Okay. Um,
Can
would
we
it be-
move to another day of the week then?
Sure could. Pam, what nights are you available or days?
I'm just on vacation the 22nd to the 29th, like that last week in July.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm okay.
Could we do August 1? Is that too far out?
We don't have anything up right now, so that would be fine.
Is that okay with the board?
That would work.
Okay, so we'll do August 1 at 6 PM. Does that work?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll pencil in August 1 at 1 PM.
Six
6 p.m.
PM.
Oh, sorry, 6 PM, sorry. Yes, 6 PM. I'm looking at a 1 on the calendar here. Excellent. So that'd be fine. Next up would be Public Health Director report.
Let's see. Again, just a lot of permits and inspections, getting vendors ready for the different events. We have Arts Festival that's actually setting up right now in front of me as we speak, and a triathlon, and we had the Eco Fest. Just a lot of getting out and doing food trucks. And Brian Flynn and I actually have finished doing like our first round. We do 2 rounds a year of food establishment inspections. That just finished. So we're done for like probably the summer. We'll probably start up like in September. We'll do the round 2, but that all really went well. Yeah, there's the usual suspects that, always have problems, but other than that, everybody else looked pretty good. And if we seem to be getting a lot of wells all of a sudden. I have 2 different wells in front of us, but I don't anticipate anything like what we just went through. It should be pretty cut and dry, honestly. Now I know I have lesson learned. I know enough to wait 30 days at when they just sent out the abutter notifications for some geothermal wells on Jerusalem. So I'm gonna wait. And then I think I should be able to approve it because there aren't any variance requests. And then another one, Ocean Ledge, that's just about completed, actually. That's going to be a potable well, and so I have to review and make sure that their water chemistry came out okay. So those are kind of the hot topics right now, food and wells.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
Have you inspected the new juice bar? Is that coming close?
Yep, I did inspect that. That looked fine. I mean, my only concern is they're in that building, looks like it's about to tip over. But other than that, the interior of it's in good shape. And I think now it's just up to the building inspector to give him a certificate of occupancy. I think it's very close.
Excellent. I think unless there's other question, we go to Mary and the Public Health Nurse report.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot to report tonight, just working with camps. Tomorrow I'm going over to the Unitarian Church. They have a new minister who's rolling out a new camp. It's called an Eco Justice Camp, and it's a 1 week in August. Little bit of a challenge though, because every day they go someplace different, so there's travel involved. And then the last day they want to do a sleepover in Wheelwright Park at the Boy Scout area up there. So I'm going to meet with the minister tomorrow and start to roll through all that entails. It's just the state requires a lot once you go off site. So working on that, and just the usual things that drift in and drift out, and nothing outstanding.
So one question I have, I know the RSV vaccine has been approved. Is there any plans down the road for, much like the flu vaccine, to have that available in town?
I haven't really gotten into that at all. I would have to purchase that, so it becomes a budget issue. What I'm really waiting for is COVID, to see what happens in the fall. The state is offering it through the end of the summer, but They are not promising anything going into fall, so I would like to do flu and COVID, but it's just to budget for that might be tricky because right now COVID is up over $100 a dose.
Yeah.
So, so we do have the revolving account that was created at the December town meeting, so that's a good thing. We have money there, but not enough to buy much COVID. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But I think the priority would be flu and COVID, but
Yeah.
you know,
It looks like the federal government won't be supplying the cost for the COVID vaccines. They'll possibly cover some of the flu, but I think you're right. It may be a budgetary problem where,
Mhm.
you know, you want to get 300 vaccines, it's going to be $30,000. So,
right. And right now I do purchase all our flu, which is fine because we get reimbursed, but it is a heavy lift up front. So we'll just have to, I really hope the state hangs in there, the federal government with the COVID vaccine, because that'll have a major impact on who gets vaccinated. And that's concerning to me.
oh, it sure will. Yeah. You know, if it's $120 a vaccine, no, not a lot of people are going to
Right.
put their arm up for a shot, which
Right.
unfortunately,
But most insurance companies should have at least partial reimbursement and Medicare will pay for it.
Yes, they will. It's just for like your health departments, it's how do you come up with that money up
Yeah.
front? And I think once you would get through the first season, you'll then have money because you'll be reimbursed, but it's just the upfront cost. So it might be something to talk to town manager about and see what we can do.
So
Yeah.
is the benefit of us doing it through the town purely for convenience of residents to try to get the most widespread distribution of vaccines?
There's a couple of reasons. It's convenient. Our seniors like coming to their health department for their
Mhm.
flu and their COVID. And it also puts a face on the health department, which is really important, So I think we learned that through the pandemic that we had a pretty good response when we would call people because they know who we are. So, those are the reasons that I think are important.
No, I understand. I mean, I personally prefer coming to the health department than going to CVS, but
Yeah.
I also don't want to strain our resources here in town.
Right.
Yeah.
So more to come on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
excellent. I don't have any topics reasonably anticipated. I think the only thing would be just issuing the permit for the public hearing, which we just had for the irrigation well permit. And I think the only comment I have is, I think down the road in the fall, I think you're right, Mary, getting access to the vaccinations for flu and COVID are key, because those are the two that we saw during the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, it was the flu. During the pandemic, it was COVID, and now we're getting a mixed bag, but majority is at this point flu, with pretty good effectiveness of the COVID vaccine. So if we can kind of keep the ball rolling, I think we'll be in better shape in the fall when COVID begins another round.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
So any other comments?
So I think next meeting, even if we don't have, say, like any septic systems or something, I was thinking we could have Stephanie Saunders, our social worker, and Michaela Bickerton, who is our new regional public health nurse. So we both have them hired under the health department, part of our PHE grant, and have them come to the meeting, and we could talk a little bit about our grant and what everybody's been doing with it and the impacts to the towns. And we're planning on doing maybe a community health needs assessment next fiscal year, and we'll just kind of talk about that stuff.
Sounds good.
So I just want to thank everyone for getting through the public hearing. We haven't had one of those in a while. And we'll probably see on August 1st, 6 p.m., the next round. If anything comes up, feel free to text me or call me or email me. If there's no other topics, then I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
A second?
And ask for a roll call vote. Marcia,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Paul Schubert, aye. Motion's adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
thanks so
everybody.
much.
Thank you.